My name is Lena Carter. I am 19 years old. Until a few months ago, I believed my life was simple. I believed my family loved me. I believed my home was the safest place in the world. But one night, as I bent down to pick up $100 bills scattered across the cold floor, I realized something painful. My life had just broken into pieces, not because of the money, and not because my father had thrown those bills at my feet like I was some stranger begging on the street. It was because of the smile, the quiet, satisfied smile on my younger sister's face as she watched me kneel on the floor in humiliation. At that moment, I understood something that took me years to learn. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who share your last name. Let me tell you what happened. Before everything changed, I was a sophomore studying computer science at a university in Chicago. I worked hard and tried to build a good future for myself. During the day, I went to classes, and at night I worked part-time at a small convenience store near campus. Life was not easy, but I had dreams. I lived in a small house in the suburbs with my father, Mark Carter, my stepmother, Patricia, and my half-sister, Haley. Haley was 3 years younger than me. From the outside, we looked like a normal family. My biological mother died when I was very young. I do not remember her voice clearly, only the warmth of her arms in a few fading childhood memories. After she passed away, my father married Patricia. Patricia tried to be kind to me. She cooked for me, helped me with school, and sometimes hugged me when I felt sad. For many years, I believed she loved me like her own daughter. Because of that, I never thought our family had serious problems. Haley and I fought sometimes when we were little. We argued over toys, clothes, or small things, like which TV show to watch. But I always believed that was normal for sisters. I never imagined that deep inside her heart there might be something darker. There was another person who meant everything to me growing up, my grandmother, Evelyn. Grandma Evelyn was the one who truly understood me. Whenever I felt lonely or confused, I went to her house. She listened to my problems, made warm tea, and told stories about my mother. She was not rich. Her house was small and her furniture was old, but she had a heart full of love. When I was with her, I felt safe. When I graduated from high school, Grandma Evelyn gave me the most precious gift I had ever received, a silver MacBook laptop. I still remember that day clearly. Her hands were shaking slightly as she held the box. Her eyes were soft but proud. "Use this to build your future," she told me gently. "I may not be here forever, but every time you open it, remember that I believe in you." I hugged her tightly that day. At the time, I did not know it would be the last gift she would ever give me. A few months later, she passed away peacefully. After her funeral, the MacBook became more than just a computer. It became a memory, a connection, a reminder of the one person who had always believed in me. Every night I used that laptop to study, write code, and complete my projects. I protected it carefully, like it was something sacred, because to me it was. Then one night everything disappeared. That evening I returned home late from work. I was tired and cold after standing for hours behind the store counter. All I wanted was to finish my homework and sleep. But when I entered my room, something felt wrong. My desk looked empty. For a moment, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Then my heart started beating faster. My MacBook was gone. At first, I tried to stay calm. Maybe I had moved it somewhere. Maybe I had taken it to school and forgotten. But deep inside, I already knew the truth. I remembered clearly placing it on my desk before leaving for class that morning. Panic filled my chest. I opened every drawer, looked under the bed, and searched every corner of my room. My hands were shaking as I moved things around, but the laptop was nowhere. Finally, I rushed out of my room and went to the living room. My father was sitting on the couch watching television like nothing had happened. "Dad," I said, my voice trembling, "have you seen my laptop?" He did not even look surprised. Instead, he calmly turned off the television and looked at me with cold eyes. "I sold it," he said. For a moment, I could not breathe. "You what?" I whispered. "I sold it," he repeated. The words hit me like a heavy stone. "Why would you do that?" I asked. "That laptop was mine." My father stood up slowly. "You should think about your actions," he said coldly. Then he walked past me toward his bedroom. Before closing the door, he said one last sentence. "You need to pay the price for what you did." I stood there in the hallway, completely confused. Then suddenly I remembered something from that morning. At around 7 o'clock, Haley had run downstairs crying. She told my father that 300 she had saved had disappeared. She said she was sure I had taken it. At that time, I was still half asleep after studying all night. My father had stopped me before I left the house. "Did you take your sister's money?" he asked. I was shocked by the accusation. "No, Dad." "Of course not," I said immediately, but I could see something in his eyes. He did not believe me. Instead, he sighed and told me I needed to return the money before dinner. I had been too busy with classes and work that day to argue about it. I thought we would talk about it calmly later, but now I understood. My father had already decided I was guilty, and because of that decision, he had sold the most important thing in my life, my grandmother's final gift. My hands started shaking with anger. Without thinking, I walked quickly toward Haley's room. When I pushed the door open, I saw her sitting comfortably on her bed, putting a face mask on her skin while scrolling through her phone. She looked completely relaxed, like nothing had happened. "Haley," I said, trying to control my voice, "why did you tell Dad I stole your money?" She did not answer. She simply continued looking at her phone as if she could not hear me. Something inside me finally snapped. "Answer me!" I shouted. For the first time, she looked up. Then suddenly, she screamed loudly, "Dad!" Within seconds, my father and stepmother rushed into the room. The atmosphere became heavy and tense. I pointed at Haley and said through clenched teeth, "Tell them the truth." But instead of answering me, she turned to my father with wide, frightened eyes. "Lena tried to hit me," she said. And just like that, everything became worse because my father believed her. For a moment, the room became completely silent. My father looked at me with anger burning in his eyes. My stepmother stood behind him, her face pale with worry. "Is that true?" my father asked slowly. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "What?" I said, shaking my head. "No, I didn't try to hit her. I just asked her why she lied about the money." Haley lowered her eyes and started crying softly. "I was scared," she said in a trembling voice. "She came into my room and started shouting at me. Her performance was perfect. If I did not know the truth, I might have believed her too, but I could not stay quiet anymore." "Dad, she's lying," I said firmly. "I never took her money, and now you sold Grandma's laptop because of something that isn't even true." The moment I said the word Grandma, my voice broke. My father's expression did not soften. Instead, his face became even colder. "You need to stop making excuses," he said. "I'm not making excuses," I cried. My chest felt tight, like I could barely breathe. "That laptop belonged to me. Grandma gave it to me before she died. How could you sell it without even asking me?" My father crossed his arms. "You live under my roof," he replied. "Everything in this house is my responsibility." "That doesn't mean you can just take my things," I shouted. Haley suddenly started sobbing louder. "See," she said between tears, "she's angry because she got caught." The words hit me like a slap. I looked at her in disbelief. "How can you say that?" I whispered. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and in that moment, I saw something terrifying. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't sad. She was smiling. It was small and quick, but I saw it clearly. A quiet, satisfied smile, like she was enjoying this. My stomach turned. My father pointed toward the hallway. "That's enough," he said. "Go to your room." But now his voice was firm and final. I knew there was no point arguing anymore. Nobody in that room was willing to listen to me. Slowly, I walked back to my bedroom. When I closed the door behind me, the silence felt heavy. My desk looked empty without the laptop. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall for a long time. The anger inside me slowly turned into something else. Pain. Grandma had saved money for months to buy that computer for me. She wanted me to succeed in school. She wanted me to have opportunities she never had. And now it was gone, sold like it meant nothing. I wiped my eyes and tried to calm myself down. But the more I thought about it, the more confused I felt. Something didn't make sense. Why would Haley lie about the money? $300 was not a small amount, but our family was not poor. My father worked as a construction manager and earned a good salary. There had to be another reason, but what? That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I left the house early for university. I did not want to see anyone from my family. Classes felt longer than usual. Without my laptop, I could not finish my assignments properly. I had to borrow computers from the library, which made everything slower. By the afternoon, my head was pounding with stress. After my last class ended, I decided to stop by a small cafe near campus. It was a quiet place where I sometimes studied. I ordered a cheap cup of coffee and sat near the window. As I stared at the street outside, my phone suddenly buzzed. The message was from someone I didn't expect, Mrs. Thompson. She had been my high school teacher during my senior year. She taught literature and had always been kind to me. Even after I graduated, she occasionally checked in to ask how I was doing. Her message was short. "Lena, are you okay? I heard something strange today. My heart skipped a beat." I quickly replied, "What do you mean?" A few seconds later, 3 dots appeared on the screen as she typed. Then another message arrived. "One of my former students works at a pawn shop downtown. He said someone sold a silver MacBook yesterday. My hands froze. He said the seller's name was Haley Carter. For a moment, the world around me seemed to disappear. The sounds of the cafe faded into silence. My sister. She was the one who sold the laptop. But that wasn't the worst part. My father had told me he sold it, which meant only one thing. He had lied. My fingers trembled as I typed back, "Are you sure?" Mrs. Thompson responded quickly. "Yes, he recognized the laptop because you used it in class all the time." I felt a wave of anger rising inside me. Haley had accused me of stealing money. My father had punished me without evidence. And now I discovered they had both lied about the laptop. Why? What were they hiding? My thoughts raced with questions. I paid for my coffee and left the cafe immediately. The cold evening wind hit my face as I walked quickly down the street. My mind kept repeating the same sentence. Haley sold the laptop, not my father, Haley. But that meant something even stranger. If she had the laptop long enough to sell it, she must have taken it from my room before I left for class, which meant the accusation about the missing money might have been planned. The realization made my stomach twist. Had my sister set me up? And if she did, why would my father help her? The more I thought about it, the more something felt deeply wrong. This wasn't just about $300 anymore. There was something else happening inside my family, something hidden, something dangerous. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't really know the people I lived with. I stopped walking and looked up at the dark sky. A cold feeling settled in my chest. If Haley had lied about the money, and if my father had lied about the laptop, then the real question was no longer who stole $300. The real question was much worse. What else had they been lying about? That night, I did not go home immediately. Instead, I walked slowly through the quiet streets near campus. The cold wind brushed against my face, but I barely felt it. My mind was filled with questions that would not stop spinning. Haley sold the laptop. My father lied about it. Why? I kept thinking about that moment in her room. The way she cried in front of my parents, the way she accused me so easily, and most of all, the small smile I saw on her face. It was not the smile of someone who was scared. It was the smile of someone who had already won. But what exactly had she won? By the time I reached our house, it was almost 10 at night. The living room lights were on, I could hear the television playing softly inside. For a moment, I stood outside the front door and took a deep breath. I knew this conversation might change everything. Slowly, I opened the door and stepped inside. My father was sitting in his usual chair watching the news. My stepmother, Patricia, was in the kitchen washing dishes. Haley was nowhere in sight. I walked into the living room and stood in front of my father. "We need to talk," I said quietly. He did not look happy to see me. "What is it now?" he asked without turning off the television. "Why did you lie about the laptop?" Now he looked at me. His eyes narrowed slightly. "What are you talking about?" "I know Haley sold it," I said. The room became silent. For a few seconds, my father just stared at me. Then he sighed deeply and turned off the television. "Where did you hear that?" he asked. "That doesn't matter," I replied. "I just want the truth." Patricia walked slowly out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. She looked nervous. "Mark," she said softly, "maybe we should just tell her." My heart started beating faster. "Tell me what?" My father rubbed his forehead like he was tired. "This situation has gone too far," he muttered. Then he looked directly at me. "You want the truth?" He said, "Fine." I waited. The money Haley said was stolen never existed. For a moment, I thought I heard him wrong. "What?" "She didn't lose $300, he continued. "We told her to say that." My stomach dropped. "You told her to accuse me?" I whispered. My father looked uncomfortable now. "It was supposed to be a lesson," he said. "A lesson?" I repeated in disbelief. "Yes," he said quickly. "You've been working too much and spending too much time outside the house. Your grades were starting to drop. We wanted you to focus more on family and responsibilities." I could not believe what I was hearing. "So you thought accusing me of stealing was a good lesson? No one thought it would become this dramatic," Patricia said nervously. "But something still didn't make sense. What about the laptop?" I asked. My father hesitated. "That was Haley's idea," he admitted. The words felt like a punch to my chest. "Her idea?" I asked slowly. He nodded. "She said if we took something important from you, you would understand how serious the situation was." My hands were shaking now. "That laptop was Grandma's last gift," I said. "I know," he said quietly. "No," I replied, my voice breaking. "You don't know." Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of them. "You didn't just take a computer," I continued. "You destroyed the last memory I had of her." Patricia looked down at the floor. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but my father stayed silent. Then something strange happened. Haley walked slowly down the hallway. She had clearly been listening to everything. She leaned casually against the wall and crossed her arms. "Well," she said lightly, "now she knows." I stared at her in shock. "You planned this?" I asked. She shrugged. "It worked, didn't it? My heart felt like it was breaking. Why? I whispered. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said something I will never forget. Because I'm tired of living in your shadow. The words confused me. My shadow? I asked. Yes, she said bitterly. You're always the good daughter, the smart one, the responsible one. Dad always talks about how proud he is of you. I looked at my father in disbelief. He avoided my eyes. So you destroyed my things because you were jealous? I asked quietly. Haley rolled her eyes. Oh, please, she said. It was just a laptop. At that moment, something inside me finally changed. For years, I had tried to keep this family together. I had tried to be patient, understanding, and forgiving. But now I realize something painful. Some people will hurt you no matter how much you love them. I took a slow breath. I'm leaving, I said. My father looked surprised. Don't be dramatic, he said. I'm serious, I replied. I walked toward the stairs. I'll pack my things tonight. Lena, Patricia called nervously, you don't have to do that. But I already knew my decision. This house no longer felt like home. Later that night, I packed 2 bags with my clothes and books. I left quietly before anyone else could stop me. Mrs. Thompson offered to let me stay in her spare room for a while, and I accepted. The next months were not easy. I worked longer hours, studied harder, and slowly rebuilt my life. But something unexpected happened. Without the constant tension at home, I felt stronger, more independent, more determined. Years passed. I graduated from university and eventually started my own small software company. Life finally became stable. One afternoon, while walking through a busy shopping street, I saw something familiar through a pawn shop window, a silver MacBook. My heart skipped. I walked inside. When the clerk placed it on the counter, I immediately recognized the small scratch near the corner. It was mine, Grandma's laptop. Without hesitation, I bought it back. That night, I opened it for the first time in years. Inside, I found something I had never noticed before. A small note saved on the desktop. It was written by Grandma. Dear Lena, if you are reading this, it means you are still chasing your dreams. Never let anyone make you feel small. You are stronger than you know. Tears rolled down my face as I read her words. For the first time in a long time, I smiled because I finally understood something important. Family is not always the people you are born with. Sometimes family is the people who truly believe in you. Thank you for listening to Learn English by Stories. If you enjoy emotional English stories like this, please like, comment, and subscribe to Learn English by Stories. Every week we share powerful stories that help you improve your English while touching your heart. And before you go, tell me in the comments, if you were Lena, would you forgive your family?